precious Lord, and lead me home. Precious Lord, take my hand, lead me on, let me stand. I'm so tired, I feel weak, and I'm worn through the storm, through the night. Lead me home to the take my hand, precious Lord, and lead me
Okay. Welcome everyone to this Socialist Action sponsored Zoom webinar on Free Palestine, from the river to the sea. Other themes we'll be discussing are Stop the Zionist Genocide and exposing the history of Israeli Zionist colonialism. We have 5 panelists with us today, and we'll be beginning with the renowned poet, author, Pulitzer Prize novelist, lifelong social activist, and co-national chair with Noam Chomsky and formerly Daniel Ellsberg of the Julian Assange Defense Committee. That would be Alice Walker. We're so proud to have Alice with us. Alice will be followed by Nora Barrows-Friedman. She is the editor, co-host of the Electronic Intifada, also a lifelong social justice activist, the former co-producer of radio station KPFA's Flashpoints in Berkeley. Then we will have Joe Lombardo, who is the co-national coordinator of UNAC, the United National Anti-War Coalition. Joe is coming from us today from Wales, England, but he's a resident of the East Coast, Albany, New York, anti-war activist, lifelong social justice activist. Then we have Lamise Deek. She is the renowned Palestinian American human rights attorney, National Lawyers Guild Defense Project, Muslim Defense Project, past vice president of the New York chapter of the National Lawyers Guild, board member of CARE New York, that's Council on Arab-Islamic Relations, member of the legal committee, and also a core member of New York's Palestine Al-Auda, the Right to Return Coalition, and formerly its co-chair and activist to the present. Then we will have me, Jeff Mackler. I'm the National Secretary of Socialist Action. I'm a young man at 83, an old friend back 62 years of Alice Walker. I'm a founder of the Julian Assange National Steering Committee at Julian Assange Defense. I'm the director of the mobilization to free Mumia Abu-Jamal, and I'm one of the founders of the United National Anti-War Coalition. So with those brief introductions, let's begin with Alice Walker. Alice, so glad that you could make it today. You have to unmute, Alice.
I was saying I'm really happy to be here with you, Jeff, especially, and with everyone. Can you hear me now?
Yes, you're perfect.
Oh, good. So should I just go into it?
Exactly. Yes.
Okay. Well, I was thinking about a little boy that I saw recently on the news who had lost both of his parents in the recent murdering rampage of Israel. He lost both of his parents on his birthday. And I don't know about most of the people in the world, but occasionally there will be something that catches the heart in such a grip that you really think you might not outlive it yourself. And this was such a moment. I was thinking about all of us on the planet. If this happened to us, if we lost our parents in this way on our birthday, what would that feel like? And what would we be after that? I feel today really happy that I have been able to be with the Palestinian people for as long as I have. It has been a great gift to me to see people, like my people in the South of the United States, just stand, no matter what, just really, stand, try to transform society peacefully. When that fails, you use, as Nat Turner did, other means of resistance. So I really appreciate having this opportunity to be with these wonderful people who also are, standing still, still standing, still knowing, still believing, still trusting that somehow humanity will wake up. I mean, really wake up. It seems to be, the fear is that once you change the channel, humanity will go back to sleep. And this would be tragic, because this is one of what is happening in Palestine now. The brutal assault by Israel is I was going to say wonderful. It's not wonderful in that sense, but it's an incredible time to understand how limited our time on this planet could be if we continue to be led by people who are insane. I mean, it's a very tricky place that we are in. And if we don't do something, stand together as we are doing around the globe and keep that standing going, once the channels change, we must not change. We must stay attuned to what is happening to Palestinians, because it's not as if it's just happening to them. My response to what was happening to this child proves that we are one. We are totally one. I mean, I feel what it feels like, or what it would feel like to lose both my parents on my birthday. I mean, what would I do? And we're talking about thousands of children and thousands of parents. So I've been very grateful for my opportunities to visit Palestine twice and to be almost there by boat, except that we were forced to turn around in our boat. But I would not have been anywhere else than on the boat. I would not have been anywhere else but in Palestine, in Gaza, when I went to visit. And this is what I would like to share with people, that we have a responsibility, as human beings, as elders now. we have this responsibility to show up. And no matter how they change the channels, and no matter how they try to make us interested in whatever, we have to stay clear that there are certain areas now on the globe and in human development that we must never abandon. And if we abandon them, we can expect this terror that we're seeing now to just spread everywhere, including into our kitchens. So I'm grateful for the opportunity to be here with you all. And I admire you all so much, and thank you.
Thanks, Alice. I was remiss in not making a few introductory remarks. The horror that we're seeing in Palestine today is unprecedented in the modern era. In the last month, 12, and some people say 14,000 innocent Palestinian people, a majority women and children, have been slaughtered by the most intensive bombing in the modern era by the Israeli army, aided by 2 offshore aircraft carriers sent by the United States to make sure that no one in the Middle East comes to their aid. Half of the housing in Gaza, a strip on the Mediterranean that's 5 miles wide and 15 miles long, have been obliterated by the Israeli bombing. Literally every hospital has been destroyed. 58 mosques have been smashed. And the entire area, this world's largest concentration camp, has been denied food, electricity, water, and medical supplies for a month. The Israeli government, backed by the United States, has bombed into smithereens 2.3 million people with 1,000 and 2,000 pound bombs, among the most deadly in any nation's arsenal. 88 United Nations workers have been murdered. Scores of journalists, all justified in the name of the Zionist state's right to defend itself. We're watching what the world considers a genocide. The demonstrations for Palestine are unprecedented. I got a call this morning that 300,000 mobilized yet again in London, millions in the Middle East, 150, some say 300,000 last weekend in Washington, D.C., with demonstrations in literally every U.S. city. People are shouting, "Stop the genocide, ceasefire now, free, free Palestine, from the river to the sea." So with that massive mobilization of humanity saying no to the United States, refusing a ceasefire, informing its diplomats that the word ceasefire is to be absent from their discussions, United States officials pleading with Middle Eastern governments not to withdraw their ambassadors, as they are increasingly doing. We see a catastrophe unfolding, and at the same time, humanity's hearts, minds, and souls going out to the beleaguered Palestinian people who demand the right to exist, the right to freedom, the right to self-determination. So with that, let's go to Nora Bowers-Friedman. Nora is a host, editor of the Electronic Intifada, a lifetime Palestinian solidarity activist, and former co-producer of KPFA's Flashpoints in Berkeley. Welcome, Nora.
Thanks so much, Jeff. And my gratitude to Alice for her lifetime of work that's impacted so many people around the world and in the struggle. And so it's always an honor to even be in the same realm online or in person with you, Alice. And Lamise, who is one of the strongest and most courageous lawyers and outspoken advocates for Palestinian liberation. Really, again, really grateful. And course, Jeff and Joe. And yeah, it's what a time. I don't even know where to start. I woke up this morning, as I do every morning, checking to see if my friends and colleagues are alive in Gaza. Going through the news items. I always feel really uneasy when I go to sleep at night because I don't know what I'm going to wake up to the next morning. Seeing the attacks on not one, not two, not five, but 9 different hospitals in Gaza, including 2 pediatric hospitals and Al Shifa Hospital, which is the largest hospital in the Gaza Strip. Hearing doctors who have been working nonstop to try and save the lives of, I think it's about 130 premature infants in the neonatal intensive care units around Gaza, 39 of whom have been at Al Shifa. And knowing that with the power outage and with Israeli snipers surrounding Al Shifa Hospital, doctors are having to aspirate, the ventilators by hand for these tiny, fragile little babies. A few of whom have already died. I don't know if more by the end of this webinar will also have died. I don't know what to do with this grief. For me, it's a visceral anger. I know that we all feel it. I know that we are all terrified and enraged. I feel like, Alice, you're the poet. Like, I don't know if we have the vocabulary to describe what's happening. And especially knowing that it's not, they say humanitarian disaster. It's a humanitarian disaster, and we're gonna, send 10 trucks of aid, right? One of which is shrouds to bury the dead. And they're saying that this is a humanitarian crisis and we need humanitarian intervention, as though it was like the aftermath of an earthquake, right? Or a flood. This is 100% political. This is 100% engineered and designed and enacted by the Israeli government and the United States and the European Union and the UK and the Western governments that not just allow this to happen, but facilitate and underline and finance and provide political cover for. And I don't know. I'm like at a loss of words. I don't know, we are all screaming at the top of our lungs to our, pathetic Congress people, to our pathetic, leadership in the Biden administration, to people who know what's happening and are refusing to do anything about it. It is, I don't know. It takes my breath away how revolting and disgusting these people are that are letting this happen and that are letting Palestinian children be slaughtered with the kinds of weapons that human beings sitting in a boardroom design and then build and ship to the Israelis. These new, they're always testing weapons on Palestinians. Gaza in particular is the R&D laboratory for not just Israeli weaponry, but for Western, the Western arms trade. they test these weapons and then they sell them on the world market, marketed as battle tested, right, or field proven. And we're seeing, I mean, doctors who are, I don't even understand like how they are working under such conditions, being sniped by Israeli snipers in Al Shifa Hospital, surrounded by tanks. They're still trying to treat their patients with no electricity and no antibiotics and hardly any bandages. People are having surgeries on the floor. And these doctors are talking about the effects of these weapons, that when they explode, there's like a fan of these like razor sharp like blades that like fan out, and they're meant to literally shred flesh. The fact that human beings have designed this weapon that is being used on Palestinian children and their fathers and their mothers and their grandparents who've survived 75 years of this ongoing Holocaust and are being forced to endure it yet again while the whole world is watching. I don't know how we come back from this. I don't know what the next stage will look like. And in my darkest moments, which are regular, I feel like I feel paralyzed, and then I remember my friends in Gaza and my friends in the West Bank who are surviving with dignity right now, and the doctors and the mothers and the fathers who are telling their stories with full dignity and bravery, and the fighters who are fighting with dignity and bravery for the defense of their people, while the entire world dehumanizes them. That is the thing that pulls me out of the pit of despair. I don't know. That's kind of where I'm at. It's it feels very bleak, and we can't let ourselves become just we can't relent. I think we have to meet the dignity and the bravery of Palestinians where they are right now.
Thank you so much, Nora. You just broke my heart. We'll go to Joe Lombardo, who is the national coordinator of UNAC, the United National Anti-War Coalition, the largest, broadest coalition fighting U.S. wars in the country. We're proud to have you, Joe. Thanks so much. Joe Lombardo.
Thank you, Jeff. I agree 100% with what Nora just said. I have a difficult time sleeping each night. When I go to bed, I think I can sleep, but I think of people in Gaza, and I think of children and families huddled together in the dark, and afraid that a bomb will land on their head, that they will not make it through the night. There's no way to live like that. As Jeff mentioned, I'm in the UK now. I live in upstate New York, but right now I'm in Wales, actually. And so the time is different for me. It's around 7:30 here. And I had the ability today to be at a demonstration, as I am every Saturday, and actually during the week there's a demonstration here also. So I went into Cardiff, which is the capital of Wales, and I protested with thousands and thousands of other people. These demonstrations were happening all across the UK, And I think, as Jeff mentioned, the big one was in London. Jeff mentioned the figure 300,000. I've been getting texts and messages from people all day that have been in London, and they say it's the biggest thing they have ever seen. The number of 300,000 was the police estimate. And I remember from my days of organizing against the Vietnam War a long time ago, when we would do an independent count. We learned a scientific method of how to do a count of a crowd. And we would do a count and we'd come up with a number. And the police estimate was always half of what our count was. So I believe there was more than 500,000 people in London today, at the same time that there were demonstrations all throughout the rest of the UK and all throughout the rest of the world that took place. If you think of what 500,000 is, the population of the United States is about 6 times the size of the UK. So we're talking about a demonstration in one place in the United States that might be about 3 million people. That's huge. And what it reflects here and what it reflects around the world is a very changing consciousness about Palestine, Zionism, Israel, United States, Britain, what's going on in the world. When we talk, we must be very clear that what is happening in Gaza, and we must say it, not be afraid to say it, in Gaza are war crimes, and they are crimes against humanity. Why aren't Netanyahu and Biden being dragged in front of the world court for crimes against humanity and war crime? There's a genocide going on, but the interesting thing about this genocide, it is unfolding on our TV screens right before our eyes. People are seeing this and they can't believe it, and they are outraged. And this is the reason that we are seeing these demonstrations. Not allowing civilians to leave a conflict area is a war crime under the Geneva Conventions. You have to allow them to leave, but they're not allowed to leave. They are kept there as the bombs fall on their head. Depriving civilians of electricity, water, and food, trying to starve them to death. That is what it is. Or war crimes, or crimes against humanity. Using of white phosphorus on civilian populations is a war crime. These are war crimes, not just conducted by the Zionist entity, but they are war crimes because they are using U.S. Planes and British planes and British shells and U.S. shells and U.S. bombs, that our governments are complicit in these war crimes and crimes against humanity. And that's why we need to continue to stay in the streets. I don't know what you hear in the United States in the last few days, because I've been here for a little while. I was actually in Rome at a big conference where I marched in a huge demonstration for Palestine in Rome. But in the UK, you do hear about the demonstrations that are going on in the UK, but you don't hear about the demonstrations other places. I don't know if the